At 90,000 miles, I tore down a friend's four-cylinder and saw the varnish I'd hoped never to see. That moment pushed us to run a controlled three-phase test: 0W20, 5W30, 5W40, each for 7,500 miles, tracking oil temps, used oil analysis, and wear. Phase 1 delivered the MPG the manual promised, but left early varnish and higher wear metals. Phase 2 quietly cooled the oil and stabilized viscosity. Phase 3, iron and copper fell to the floor under sustained load. What shocked me most wasn't the heavyweight. It was which oil balanced protection and economy for real daily driving. So if 0W20 adds a tick to your MPG, why did the bearings show early varnish by 7,500 miles? We kept every other variable locked down to find out. Same naturally aspirated four-cylinder with tight tolerances. Same roots, same filters, same pump gas, same 7,500-mile interval. We started with manufacturer-approved 0W20 full synthetic and logged everything: oil temp, fuel trims, and used oil analysis, then pulled covers to see what the data hinted at. The trip computer looked happy. Over the interval, we averaged a 0.7 miles per gallon bump compared to the thicker grades. Cold starts felt crisp, idle stayed smooth, and the engine sounded clean on light throttle. The lab sheets told a different story. By the end of the run, viscosity had dropped about 13%, moving the oil toward a lower grade. Iron and aluminum came back elevated, with copper creeping higher than we wanted for this mileage. None of it screamed failure, but it pointed in one direction. The thin film was working harder than it should. Heat played a bigger role than the dash would ever show. With 0W20, average oil temperature ran 8 to 12 degrees hotter across the same commute in the same weather. That extra heat accelerates oxidation, and once the base stock and additive package start to tire, shear takes bites out of viscosity. Over thousands of miles, those small bites add up. We saw it in the numbers, and we saw it under the cover. Early amber staining on the cam towers and light varnish halos near oiling points appeared after a string of hot commutes. They weren't thick deposits, but they were there at just 7,500 miles. The used oil analysis backed up the visual cues. Insolubles crept upward through the interval, hinting at oxidation byproducts and a filtration system that was keeping pace but not catching everything. That's normal to a point, but combined with hotter oil and faster viscosity loss, it builds a case. Thin oil reduces hydrodynamic drag, which helps efficiency. The trade is a thinner protective film, especially when you shut the engine off hot. On restart, before full pressure and film thickness rebuild, boundary contact becomes more likely at the bearings and valve train. Add in summer traffic or a long grade, and the margin shrinks further. Daily habits push the results. Short trips look great on the MPG display because the engine spends more time in light load, but fuel dilution hangs around when the oil never gets a long, stable heat soak. Then you hit a stretch of stop and go in warm weather, and temperatures spike. That cycle promotes shear and oxidation, and those elevated wear metals start to make sense. You don't feel it from the driver's seat, but the lab and the teardown photos don't care about perception. So yes, the manual's promise of efficiency checked out. We got the half to 1 mile per gallon gain in smooth cold behavior. The cost showed up in the fine print: hotter average oil temps, quicker viscosity decay, higher iron and aluminum, a nudge in copper rising in solubles, and the first hints of varnish right where oil meets heat. For a new engine in a mild climate, that might be an acceptable trade. For long-term durability across mixed conditions, it sets a baseline that begs to be beaten. If the thinnest option shows cracks when the heat comes up, the obvious next move is to see what happens when we push in the opposite direction. What surprised us with 5W40 wasn't brute force. It was what that extra cushion of strength told us about how most people actually drive. We flipped the script and went from thin to thick, kept the same 7,500-mile window, and leaned on the engine harder. High-load highway pulls, long grades at elevated RPM, and steady-state heat gave this oil a fair shot to prove its film strength where it truly matters. Same engine, same filters, same fuel, same routes. Only the stress profile changed to favor load over gentle commuting. Right away, the thermocouples told a quiet story. Compared to the mid-grade, oil temps edged down another 3 to 5 degrees. That margin may sound small, but under continuous heat it compounds. The thicker blend didn't flinch when we held it near the top of the rev band for minutes at a time. The lab backed it up. After 7,500 miles of hard running, viscosity loss came in under 2%. The number sat tight, and the shear curve looked flat. Iron and copper trended toward floor levels during the hottest stretches, which lined up with the cleaner sound from the valve train when the engine lived above 3,000 RPM. There's a technical reason it behaved that way. Higher HTHS viscosity builds a stronger hydrodynamic film across bearings and cam lobes when load stacks up. That thicker wedge of oil resists being squeezed out, so metal surfaces stay separated as pressure climbs. You feel it as composure on long, uphill slogs, where thinner grades can drift hotter and get noisy. With 5W40, the temp needle barely moved and the viscosity stayed in its lane. On the teardown, contact patterns on the bearing overlays looked even, with no discoloration from localized heat soak after the load cycles. Those long interstate climbs became the best case study. We ran back-to-back pulls on a steep section, holding gear to keep the engine working. Coolant sat steady and oil hovered a few degrees cooler than the mid-weight run from the prior phase. The UOA from that segment showed minimal wear metal pickup, almost noise floor low. No foaming issues, no audible lash clatter at hot idle after the pulls, and no timing chain stretch flags in the data logs. It simply handled heat and load without asking for a lift. But the daily grind told a different story. Cold starts slowed. You could feel the pump pushing against thicker fluid for the first half minute, especially on mornings below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Short 10-minute trips kept a hint of fuel dilution suspended, and without long cruises to burn it off, the oil took longer to clear its throat. That showed up as slightly lazier throttle response and lower trip MPG. The engine never sounded unhappy, but it didn't feel as eager as with a lighter grade when you're just running errands. So where does that leave you if your week is a mix of suburb miles and weekend highway? If your driving keeps the engine loaded, towing, mountain passes, summer heat, or track days, this grade acts like armor. It holds temperature, maintains viscosity, and keeps wear metals down where they belong. In that world, the trade-offs are worth it. In short, 5W40 stands out under stress, but the small penalties in cold flow and short trip efficiency start to stack up when the engine doesn't see sustained heat. That's why the next step points to the option most technicians reach for when they aren't towing or climbing all week. We wanted the protection edge without dulling the everyday feel, and the middleweight tends to land right on that balance.